Trustees, you have several items in your folder pertinent to this topic. I received so many emails, and I always want to return every email, and it was simply impossible during these inclement weather days. But overarching are all the pressures that you all have alluded to, that idea of food insecurity and needing to get to work while needing to care for children. We understand all of those concerns, but we thought just reading and hearing from everyone that it would make everybody feel better if we just got an analysis of where we are. So the goal of this report, and it doesn't have to be lengthy at all, but is to simply update all of us on what we know right now regarding our inclement weather and winter 2018-19. The first thing, let's just talk about our current reality. There are a lot of C's in this presentation, and current reality is right here, trustees. We have called 8 days. First one was on January 23rd. You can see there the reasons. And the last one on, most recent one on February 13th for snow and ice. And so that is 8 days. Let's put that current reality into some context, which folks don't always recognize. And you can see there the number of days called over the previous year. So you can see that in the previous 3 years, we called about 6 days. So for folks who get excited and feel like we've gone soft in the Ann Arbor public schools and we're not Michigan anymore, let's look at the context, and understand, at least during my years here, and that 12-13 was before my years here, we've had some, a wide variety of the number of days called. This certainly has been an amazing winter. And you recall the 13-14 winter was the polar vortex also. Do you all remember that winter? And that one was characterized by the depth of the snowfall. I remember the first winter I was here trying to find my car. I was not quite certain where it was because it was covered completely by the snow. So we've been all over the map over previous years, but that gives a little context. And now let's extrapolate that. MASA put out, and that's the Superintendent's Association, put out a survey. They said this was the most strongly responded to survey of any survey they've ever put out. But the numbers on the right represent the number of districts. So those folks, and I understand times are hard and people get stressed, but those folks who have written to say you've called more days than anyone, that just simply isn't true. You can see we're at 8 days, and you can see that many districts have called more than we have. So let's think about the conditions is kind of our next piece. And anyone out there in the community, you can go to our website, and I know I often get great emails from our students who have a lot to share with me on making the snow call decision. But we do have a very strict protocol, and you can see it right there on our website, that we are monitoring 24 hours a day. I have been worried about my own personal team because their sleep has been interrupted on so many nights over the previous 4 weeks, because we are monitoring overnight. Mr. Demetriou has that Durham crew driving at 3 a.m. I get my report from him at 4:30 a.m. Our superintendent's call convenes at 4:30 a.m. And that's when we really analyze all of the roads in the community. What folks also don't realize when they get up and go to work in Ann Arbor and think the roads were fine, is what they also don't realize is we in Ann Arbor cover 128 square miles, and we are 8 townships and Ann Arbor City. So depending on the plowing status, and that's what we'll get on that call, is kind of the plowing status on our remote roads, on our central lines. I am really proud of City Manager Lazarus, who has implemented this idea of getting to the paths to school pathways. So not just the main roads, but he pays attention to some kind of fundamental pathways to our schools. Now, not every neighborhood road. So that is another challenge, is we are looking at the status of neighborhood roads, because our buses must traverse not only the main arteries in town and around the county, but they must also traverse the neighborhood roads. And I know that often in Ann Arbor and in our townships, the neighborhood plowing is on day 2 of an event. It does not typically occur on day 1 of an event. So here's what we have to think about in those morning hours with transportation. The question for us is not, could you get in your car and drive to your office? The question for us is, can we responsibly put 113 routes into play that go through neighborhood roads? About 4,000 students are on our P12 buses, our Ann Arbor Public Schools buses operated by Durham. There's another almost 1,000 students that are on our AAPS buses. That's from our reduction in busing that occurred several years ago. And then we have a substantive chunk of students who are in cabbed transportation due to their McKinney-Vento homeless status or their special needs status. So that number creeps up to about 5,000 students. We do cover 128 square miles, City of Ann Arbor, and 8 townships. If you think about how far we have to go, our buses travel about 7,500 miles a day. That is more than the equivalent of a round-trip drive to Anchorage, Alaska. And so we say to ourselves, not, can I get in my car and drive to my office at U of M, but we say, can I responsibly put 5,000 students into transportation that's got to go down roads that may not yet have been plowed? And so we think about those conditions and those considerations. We do deliver a decision by 5 a.m., then Mr. Cluley springs into action with all of his communication. We now are sending out more than 20,000 texts, phone calls, emails, and he and I tag team on social media. I do have quite a following among students that I'm quite proud of, and they're very, how shall we say, A to engage is a mantra that they follow on social media on these days. So these are the considerations. This is kind of the process we go through. The bottom line is this: a superintendent sent this to me. I would credit it, but I'm not sure where it came from. The closing dilemma: you're a superintendent who's been notified that the National Weather Service is predicting snow or ice and possibly dangerous conditions. You're aware that thousands of school children will be riding buses and hundreds of teenagers will be driving. You're also aware that if nothing happens, you will be lambasted and mocked by parents and taxpayers. What do? Do you say, I'll believe it when I see it? Or do you cancel classes? I can't speak for you, but I would rather be a fool 50 times than been fatally wrong once. And so that is the rubric that we apply, and we stand behind our decisions. They are difficult decisions. I do remind folks that that decision has to be made by 5 a.m. So it is easy to look out the window at 10 a.m. and say, wow, the sun's popped out. Looks like a great day out there. What's wrong, Superintendent? And yet those decisions for us have to be made very, very early on. I've had a lot of email about delayed start, and trustees, those of you that have served for a while, know that when I first arrived in this state, I said to you all, so where's the delayed start? And you said to me, oh, there's a long story there. And it was almost like you said, yeah, you'll get to that. And so indeed, we have explored that option. We do not have any district partners with us in Washtenaw County who are interested in joining us in that endeavor. So if we were to make that decision, we would be the only district doing so. The second thing I would add is that you recall, trustees, we placed it on our climate survey with more than 16,000 responses. We did that 2 years ago after that kind of challenging winter that had a lot of ice in it. And we had a very split outcome on the response to the question. And parents are very clear. One set of parents says, I'm happy for a delay, tell me, I'll get my child there at 10, it's no worry. The other set of parents says, in our family, we're gonna make one plan, and we're gonna make that plan early, and then we're gonna deploy. So don't be giving me a second decision to think about, at the 10 a.m. time. Our staff is overwhelmingly has said that it would be a negative for them to try to make that work. So I will share with you, trustees, that I've asked Ms. Linden, who is in charge of our survey, to put that question back on for this spring survey, which is coming out just right before spring break, so not very far away. So I would encourage all of our parents, all of our staff, all of our students, they take the survey also. I should add that students are overwhelmingly opposed to the delayed start. I did not include that, but that is a part of the report also. So we are wrapping that in as well. Other considerations. What we know is that our first 6 days are considered act of God days, and we are forgiven for those. Up to 3 additional days are forgiven as requested on a waiver. Trustees, we were spoken to by both the governor and State Superintendent Alice face-to-face in our meeting last week, and we were advised to not submit our waiver requests until the end of winter. The governor joked about when that might occur, and we don't know for sure. Some folks have said, can you just keep my child longer for the day? And that is not allowed. We can keep them longer for the day, but that does not get you the relief on the minimum number of days required. There is pending legislation, and I've included it in your packets this evening, that would add the part where if the governor declares a state of emergency, those days are considered act of God days beyond the 9 days. So we are looking for that, and that would impact January 29th through February 1st. So it would also, trustees, wrap in the Slauson Day that they had to take due to their furnace and heating and frozen pipe issues. Here are our next steps. First of all, we are all in this together, and I just reiterate thank you to all of the staff and students. And, I felt for our students because they had studied for their finals about 59 days in a row, and they still hadn't had their finals, and it's just hard on everyone. I will begin and end with safety will always be our top priority. I've been encouraged over recent days by many in email to relax the standard so that we don't have any more days. I assure you, trustees, the rubric is sound. We use that rubric for a purpose, and we won't adjust that rubric because we're on day 8 or day 9. We will carry on with the standard process. We will complete the waiver. I suspect Ms. Dickinson Kelly and I have been discussing that. I suspect that'll go in toward spring break time. And we will continue to monitor the progress of this pending legislation. So if you're so inclined to email our representatives, I believe this would be a great help to districts. we will include the late start consideration as a question on our climate survey. And so with that, our closure decisions are difficult. We take them extremely seriously. Trustees, I sent you today on email the survey results from 266 other districts. So you can get lost in that data. There's a whole lot of data in there. Another question that has come up is, are there snow days built into the calendar? And I noticed on this survey that about 90% of districts say no, they don't build days in. The built-in days are the 6 days and then the 3 extra days that you can apply for the waiver. So I'm prepared to take any questions you have. We are launching a new structure on our website called AAPS Answers, where we hope to place answers to commonly asked questions. And I'm proud to say that this will be the first answer going on our new structure, is an update on snow days and the status of snow days. And with that, Madam President, trustees, we're pleased to receive your questions.